It's time for Anything Cricket Test Match Watch. Day 3 of the second test of the series between Bangladesh and the West Indies. West Indies 409 and 41 for 3. Bangladesh 296. The West Indies lead by 154 runs, some 7 wickets in hand. And Jason King, Wayne Holder, we've got the makings of another excellent finisher on our hands. Maybe a bit too early to call, but a contest which surely underlines again this thing called Test cricket and all that it has to offer. Welcome, guys. Jason King and Wayne Holder.
Thank you, Philip. Good day to you. Good day to all viewers. The game is interestingly poised. It looks like we will definitely have a result in this game. West Indies is still somewhat ahead, in my opinion, with a lead of 154 already. The key is maximizing that lead while minimizing the amount of wickets lost. So with 12 sessions left in the game, it's a matter of how many sessions do you or can you bat to ensure that one, Bangladesh is in a situation where they may be unable to win the game, and that West Indies really and truly put themselves in a position to win the game. I think a minimum target it should be reaching for is 350, which would be just about another 200 runs, which seems pretty possible. The wicket, a day 4 pitch, not appearing to be ready to have any demons in it. So therefore, I believe that we should, once we bat properly, don't play any rash shots. There's time. So we can take our time to get those 200 runs. If we get those additional 200 runs somewhere into the last session of the 4th day, then it gives us 6 and maybe 6.5, 6 and a piece sessions to bowl at Bangladesh. And once we then bowl at them and restrict the scoring, because the beginning of Bangladesh's first innings, they started off at quite a clip. If we can restrict that scoring early, it will put them on a back foot and put them in a defensive mindset, which means we should hopefully then be able to go in for the kill and come out hopefully 2-0 winners of the series.
Wayne Holder, what's your take?
If it were a horse race scenario, one would have to say that the West Indies, from the dominant position that they enjoyed at the close of the second day, would have faltered somewhat over day 3 and had that lead reduced by the Bangladesh team. However, at the end of the day, still very handily placed, a position of 154 in front with 7 wickets still in hand on a pitch that, where the bowlers definitely came into the game, took over the dominance in the game, especially in that final session where we saw Bangladesh lose some 4 wickets and West Indies 3. So yes, West Indies still in front, and a lot is going to depend on what happens in the play come tomorrow. A day of mixed fortunes though, where the positions basically ebbed and flowed between the two sides. We saw West Indies pick up 2 very good and 2 very important wickets in that first session, getting rid of Mithun and the dangerous Mushfiqur Rahim. We came back in the middle session and everything went flat. You know, I remember the late former radio sports commentator Leslie Shell Harris used to talk about the game going into the doldrums, you know, and West Indies play actually went into the doldrums during that middle session. My theory about the ball, once it gets past a certain age, getting soft and, you know, reducing the effect of the bowlers, that came very much into play for me. And you know, it was strange to see the West Indies limping towards the new ball. You know, once they got that new ball though, it breathed fresh life into West Indies again, and they were able to quite quickly wrap up the Bangladesh tail and maintain that a lead of 113, which earlier in the day had promised to be so much more. So a day, as I said, shared between the two teams, but quite noticeably, the bowlers are beginning to come to the fore.
Gentlemen, there was a time when, in fact, I would say I grew up hearing how visitors to Barbados talk about how knowledgeable Barbadians were, the Barbadian cricket crowd, about cricket. And I don't know if you all had similar experiences. Certainly, in your case, when Jason may be a bit too young for that. I say that because I'm wondering now if I believe I should say that a lot of that was because those who watch cricket in Barbados and throughout the region, it wasn't just Barbados, made assessments about cricket based on what happened on the field. I am not even sure when that changed. But now we have people who are just looking at others and deciding if they're going to do well or not do well. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, Wayne, but do you think this rubbish about Cornwall's size has been put to bed finally?
Cornwall's size will never be put to bed. The fact of the matter is that Cornwall is that kind of figure who will always draw attention because of his size, you know. But I personally, I ignore what I said. I don't get too caught up in. I said I deal with cricket, you know, and as you said, what happens on the field of play. So yes, I can understand why people will get caught up in Cornwall and his size and all that. But for me personally, it's a non-issue.
Jason?
I have some concerns with his size. I personally believe I've watched him over the years, and I personally believe that if he was able to drop some of the weight, he would actually be a much better batsman. Cornwall has very decent hands when it comes to batting, but his feet are unable to get into the correct positions because of the amount of weight he's carrying. So I believe that if he was to reduce his weight, it would allow him to move better at the crease because his hands are fine. But if your hands are not going with your feet at this level, you will be exposed. So I believe there is room for him to drop some of the weight. He would become more agile in the field as well. It would improve his all-round game. I mean, there are persons who are satisfied that, he was able to get 5 wickets in Bangladesh's first innings. So there are persons that are saying, well, we don't have many bowlers who've been getting 5-wicket hauls, many spinners, and he's gotten a 5-wicket haul here. However, I believe he could improve from what we see here. And it would make the opposition pay more attention to him. That could be good, that could be bad, because not paying attention to him, not taking him seriously means they may classify him as an underrated player, and then when they let the guards down, he's able to make inroads. And on the other side, they may pay attention to him and say, well, let's target him because we know that there's not much mobility, etc. There are only certain balls he can bowl, so let's just target him. But overall, I believe if Cornwall was to drop weight, there would be an improvement in his all-round game.
Jason, I think that any cricketer or any person really who is involved in anything should be aiming to get better. And therefore, if Cornwall and those around him believe, and I guess most people would believe, that if he loses weight, it may give him the opportunity to improve in certain areas. That's not necessarily so, but it is a possibility. And therefore, there's nothing wrong with him trying to lose weight for that and for any other reason. That's not what I'm talking about. You remember Shivnarine Chanapal coming into the West Indies team, a very, I think it's fair to say, although I would hesitate to say, but fair to say a frail frame, if you will. I don't recall that there was any serious argument that he should not play because of his size. And what happened? That took care of itself over time. If Cornwall is able to lose weight and that loss of weight allows him to improve in certain areas, that's fantastic. My concern is with those who are saying that regardless how many wickets he has at the first class level, he should not be considered. That is my problem. But having been considered, having performed, what I'm saying is that we should no longer use the argument that he should not play. If, however, he finds ways and means to improve, whether it is through weight loss, whether it is through adding other things to his resources, whatever, every player should be seeking to improve. So I hope I've outlined and explained maybe a bit better what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see your point. The statistics and the performances at the first class level are what are used to determine whether you should be elevated to international level. And when you look across the region in terms of performances, he is there or thereabouts when it comes to being selected. There are other spinners who get quite a few wickets, but they've also been tried at the international level and have not set any tongues wagging. So there was an opportunity for a try of somebody else. And if he was there waiting in the wings, so be it. He's taken the opportunity. I think he's performed as well as he could. But when Wayne and Philip, I look at the full picture, and I can't help but keep thinking how much better he can be. I had whether it's benefit or pleasure, whatever, of playing with a few guys who were heavy set. And therefore had the chance to watch them in action. And that's why I keep concentrating on and speaking about Cornwall's hands. I don't know how many people look at hands when it comes to batting, but his hands, as I keep saying, are fine. And I keep just wishing better for him, allowing him to lose that weight to then be able to perform much better as a batsman, because he also hits the ball quite hard. And it would open up so much more for his game. He may even, if he came down to maybe 240, 230 pounds, I mean, that may be a stretch, but he may be a fixture in ODI cricket because he'd be a lot more mobile. And a guy 6'6", 6'7", weighing 240, 250 pounds is not an obese person or anything of that nature. There will be quite a bit of muscle mass by the time you get down to that sort of weight. And we've been talking about this for a few years now. So if he had made the commitment 2 or maybe 3 years ago to work on it and work on it and work on it, yes, he would still be around the international setup, but he would have dropped a lot of that weight and would be at a stage now where his game would improve without him even trying, because he's fitter, he's able to concentrate without having to worry about getting tired, even when in the field and bowling. So
Jason, let me jump in quickly. Jason, just a couple of things quickly though. First of all, one of the things that really disappoints me about the analysis of Cornwall, unless there are things known about Cornwall that I'm not aware of, people assume when others are big and they're not losing weight that they're not trying. That is not necessarily so. And unless, therefore, one has specific knowledge of a particular individual, then I think it's dangerous to assume that. And what one interprets as not trained may not necessarily be that. It's a whole complex thing, which brings into play things such as sports psychology. And therefore, it is a bit oversimplistic to look at someone who has not lost as much weight as we think they should lose and come to the conclusion that they're not being trained. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, so therefore, to make that comment, one may need to do a little bit more research. The other aspect of it is concentration. One of the things that that amazed me last night about Cornwall was his concentration. And therefore, to suggest that it would improve if he gets smaller makes me wonder why those guys who are already smaller than him don't seem to be able to concentrate. So I think that Cornwall deserves this play. I think, like anybody else, he and those around him should try to help him to improve, whatever that involves. But I think we need to stop looking specifically at him and saying he needs to do this and he needs to drop this. When you've got players who played before him, alongside him, who are not doing the job, and nobody's concerned about their size or if they should get smaller, bigger, or I think it's discrimination, really. I really think it's discrimination. It's something which I feel pretty strongly about, because discrimination is discrimination, whether it's based on race, size, or anything else. But when you want to say something.
No, I said there's a lot of merit in what both of you said, and I don't think I am anywhere near qualified to get into the scientific explanations and that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It is true, though, that one of my disappointments with Raheem Cornwall is the fact that he has not shown the international world his real natural ability with the bat. Because Raheem Cornwall is regarded in domestic cricket in the West Indies as an all-rounder. Mind you, he came on the scene as a batting all-rounder who used to bowl a bit. If you recall the beginning of Raheem Cornwall's career, he was a batsman who bowled a bit. And gradually, his bowling has continued to improve and it's reached the level now where he seems to me to basically ignore his batting. And it's been just a matter of, especially at this international level, since he's come on the scene as a test player. So the whole weight issue is something that, as far as I'm concerned, he has transcended by being able to rise to the top of the group, the top of the ladder, as far as spin bowlers in the West Indies is concerned. I mean, this man came from a batting all-rounder, and through all the different detractions and detractors and all the doubts about him because of his size, he was able to forge himself in a position where they could no longer ignore him. Raheem Cornwall has overcome every single stumbling block that has been put in his way, and it came to a point where the selectors could no longer ignore him and they had to give him a play. He's playing because he has to play. That's my take.
No, seriously though, I do agree, and let me clarify that just in case anybody else misreads it. There's nothing wrong with what Jason shared in terms of how he can improve and his belief about his batting and footwork and so on. That's not what I'm talking about. The only thing that I really take issue with in terms of what Jason said would have been the assumption that he is not trained. And unless Jason or anyone else has inside knowledge that would indicate that, what I can say from my experience of things of that nature is that things do not always be what they appear to be from the outside. And that's the only thing that we shouldn't make assumptions. In terms of the whole idea of his being a bowler and his batting falling off, if we were to sit down, Wayne, and make a list of cricketers that we've observed over the years, we can probably fill a few pages with cricketers who have gone up to a higher level and one aspect of their game has dropped off. Why are we assuming that the only reason for that is his size? Why could it not be that he just doesn't pay attention to his batting? And maybe all he may require is encouragement. It doesn't mean that the biomechanical points that Jason shared are not valid. Of course they are. But we've also seen cricketers who score runs consistently when the things that they do tell us that they shouldn't even get off the mark. It is not a simple thing. And my final comment in this forum on Raheem Cornwall would be that I think really and truly he is in a position to be an inspiration to many people, not only because of size, but people who've been written off, despite the fact that they're trying their best to make a contribution.
And actually, I heard the same Raheem Cornwall in an interview this morning with Ian Bishop, telling Bishop that how hard he works. He's working on his batting, and he's hopeful that we once again be able to see the best of his batting. But talking about weight, though, I'm going on to the actual play on the field. I was telling myself, West Indies have a bowling staff, well, 4 specialists and Kyle Mears and Bonner and the others. Only 2 turned up for work yesterday. The 2 heavyweights, Cornwall and Shannon Gabriel. And they actually pushed
the giant, according to Ayana.
Well, yeah, one giant and the 2 biggest men in the team, and they pulled their weight. As far as I'm concerned, they were the ones to pull their weight yesterday and keep.
Jason, we're out of our league. We're out of our league here. Continuing.
Back to pull the West Indies right back into the game, because that advantage that we talked about at the end of the day appeared to be slipping away. And during that middle session, during that I think it's 120 something 26-run partnership between Leighton Das and
Mahidi.
Right. Hassan Miraz, right? That partnership, and it was Cornwall coming back with the new ball after in the final session, and then assisted by Gabriel, who was a threat the entire day, running in spell after spell with all his weight.
Jason, I was speechless after that. I'm not even going to attempt to make a point after that presentation by way. The floor is yours.
I don't want anyone to go away getting the wrong impression when I speak about weight and Raheem Cornwall. The reality is, I actually believe there are abilities which he has to be a world leader, to be ranked among those among the best that are playing the game. So that is where I am seeing it. I in terms of when I concentrate on the hands, I've looked at the hands of all our players, and I think he has natural batting ability that is better than some of our top order batsmen. So I'm just seeking to get him to improve to where he is a force to be reckoned with every time he steps on the field. That he is noticed not only because he will always be tall. The only persons that seem to shrink are persons like myself and Wayne. So he will always be a giant on the field. But I don't want it only to be because of his height and weight, but also because of all his all-round performances, so that anytime anybody comes up against him, they have to think a whole lot about it. We have not necessarily produced a world beater in a long time, and he has that kind of potential from an all-round perspective, that he can be dominant in cricket. A batsman at that height doesn't have to worry about short balls that a batsman that's 5'5" has to worry about, because the ball would have to be smacked into the wicket further back, which means you have more time to see it. It's the same concept that I felt that Kevin Peterson was almost the perfect height and size for a batsman. Same thing with Flintoff. That 6'4", 6'3", 6'5" sort of range, with mobility like a person who's 5'5" or 5'6".
Add Jack Callis to that group.
Yeah, it gives them so much more of an advantage. And he has the hands. His hands are fast. but I just want him then to have the mobility that will allow him to develop into a world-class batsman. I've said to Jason Holder before that he has the batting potential to score 15 to 18 test hundreds. I'm not sure if he believes that himself, but in terms of his height and mobility, the reach that he has that ability because he has so much more of an advantage than a person who is between 5'5" and 5'8" would have.
Jason, while you're on the subject of, you mentioned you compared Cornwall to top order batsmen in terms of the point that you were making at the time. The West Indies top order, if there's one aspect of this team that has maybe not offered the encouragement that we've seen through the bowling of Cornwall and Gabriel and the batting of the Silva and Bonner and Mears, is the top three. Well, not the captain, Braffett. We know what Braffett is capable of. We know he's not at his best, but you can see the effort, you can see the contribution. But Campbell and Mosley, what can we do about that?
I'll start with Mosley and saying that Mosley is having a horrible, when I say debut tour, in terms of debut tests, the first two tests that he has played, he looks out of his depth. He's not sticking to basics, and he is somewhat finding ways of getting out. And he wants to, I know him well enough to know that he wants to score runs. There's no batsman that doesn't, but he is extremely hungry and wants to make the best of this opportunity. But he is unable to find ways of coping and being able to get through balls and get through difficult situations. So this second innings today was a situation where you had to get through to close a play. And so he was automatically, that is going to be on his mind. And he's saying to himself, I am under pressure because this could potentially be my last test innings because I've failed in the other three and possibly this could be my last. I'm naturally an opening batsman, but I've been asked to bat at 3 and I've been getting early enough opportunities, but I have not been capitalizing. So he played at a ball, the ball at the edge to slip. He played at a ball that was wide of the stumps. But he's trying to survive, so he's trying to block that ball out to make sure that he doesn't get out. And as a result, played at a ball too far from his body and edged it to slip. In terms of Campbell, I don't think Campbell puts a large enough price on his wicket. Campbell obviously feels nothing by having to be in the field for multiple hours at a time, fielding, and therefore doesn't feel that when he gets to the wicket that the opposition should spend just as much time on the field as he did. Sometimes you just got to punish guys for keeping you in the field. So he's trying things, again, trying to score runs and going to some pet shots. But like today again, that ball that he played that bounced and went on to his stumps, there had to be psychologically, he was not in charge of what was going on out there because he had no idea where the ball went. He played the ball and had no idea where the ball went. And it wasn't like he was in a situation sometimes where you wear a helmet and the ball goes up in the air, you're not aware where it went, that sort of thing. My recollection is he was wearing a cap. So you should have been able to see where that ball went automatically. He didn't flinch. When you play the ball off the bat and it goes down into the ground, you tend to have an idea where sometimes it has gone. Off a pacer, I can understand. It may travel that quickly, you may not know. But off a spinner, you should have an idea. And he did not flinch. He did not look around until the ball hit the stumps. And he seemed one of the most surprised people on the field that he had played on. But you got to be out there. You got to be that confident to be pushing the ball off of you. But I remember there are several players who have been ridiculed for playing cross-batted shots and being given out. There are persons who say the umpire should give you out just for the shot. And this cross-batted shot that that he keeps playing and not mastering. And it's a difficult shot to master. I don't even think anybody could ever master the sweep shot. There are people who play it well, but eventually it will get you out because the ball is going to bounce different to how you expect, and that's what's going to happen.
It's a high risk shot then. That's basically what you
Yeah, very high risk. And he keeps missing the ball. And invariably, it's a ball that's targeted at his stumps. Other persons who play tend to play the ball from wide of the stump, knowing where their stumps are. So even if the ball turns, it will miss miss the bat, yes, but it hits the pad outside the line of the stumps. He doesn't even have his front pad as a second line of defense. So the ball is coming in, it's hitting him on the back leg because he's trying to clear the leg to hit the ball into the leg side. Not the right way to play the shot either.
It's quite noticeable though, Jason. I watched the entire innings, as brief as it was. You know, he did not bring out the broom last night at all. Did not attempt one sweep. Nonetheless, though, Jason in his opening remarks reminded me of, I think both of you gentlemen know very well Henderson Simmons, an Empire man like both of you, who would have gone on to, I think he had one game for Barbados at the first class level, and Ted Dexter, as he's affectionately called, and we played club cricket together. And I recall a young opening batsman, like described by Jason, after a long day in the field at Ipswich Sunday, the opposition had put us in the field for a long time. Late in the evening, the youngster goes out to open the batting, and quick saw, boom, he's out and back in the pavilion. And when he came back to the pavilion, that is exactly what Ted told him. Ted told him, you like watching people batting.
Exactly.
Jason reminded me of that. But then looking back at our opening, well, the numbers 2, 3 for Campbell and Mosley, you know, we all know that the team was supposed to be quote unquote weakened because we did not have a number of the accomplished stalwarts, the first choice players. We have been able to find adequate replacements throughout the middle order, right down to the lower order. But the number 2 opening spot and number 3 in the batting are the areas that cause us some concern. We have not, these two have not been able to grab the opportunity, and I think it all has to do with the cause of technical flaws in the case of both of them. But I have written off Campbell not because I am finished with Campbell. I think that there's something to Campbell. When I see Campbell back and having followed him from all the days when he captained the West Indies youth on the 19 youth team at the Youth World Cup and all that, there's something about Campbell, but somehow or another he's not been able to transcend that step that is taken, that it takes to move from first class to the international level. So there's nothing wrong with asking Campbell, like we have asked Darren Bravo, like we have asked Shemron Hetmeyer, like we have asked Sheho, step back. Go back to the mechanic shop, get some work.
Pause a minute.
Pause, yeah, pause.
I'm not asking you to pause. I'm saying that.
You had me there for a while. But yes, but Campbell is one of these cases, you know, to go back, have a look, have a relook, retool, and let's see if you have what it takes to come back. Mosley, if I may borrow Jason's word, clearly out of his depth at this level. He has earned his position because he has been the leader in a pack of, we may say, poor contenders. But the fact of the matter is that he is there in Bangladesh right now because he was the next best coming through the gate. But now that we've seen him, we know that there is a lot of work needed to be done. And I mean, I don't want to question the work of the coaches and the like, but it is so noticeable that the young man plants his left leg, his back leg on that leg stump, and it doesn't move. It's as if somebody has nailed it there or cast it in concrete. And you know, it's a simple thing as up to last night, the ball that he got up with, you know, there he was lunging at the ball. The ball was pitched off, stuff spinning a bit further there because he is not moving across his crease. He doesn't even have to come forward and be threatened with near stump. All he needs to do is get across to that off stump, and move into the ball. Thereby, you pick up the line of the ball. You know anything outside of your line of sight is outside the off stump. But he will be getting closer to the ball. But what he does, the ball that he dragged on in the first inning, similarly, back foot planted on the leg stump, reaching for the ball, no balance, no control whatsoever. So he definitely needs to stop, cease, settle, pause.
You know, Wayne, before I ask you guys to look forward to the fourth day, just let me share something. And I'm glad that you didn't go down the road of the blaming the coaches. I think you're well aware of my involvement in coaching, not only in cricket, but in table tennis and even at the national level. And I recall many years ago having a player playing in a tournament who, I won't bore you with details of what he was doing, but there was something that he was doing that was allowing opponents who, to my mind, were not any better than he was, to be able to cope with his aggression. And I talked to him about it, we discussed it, we tried to work on it. And the only time I recognized that he wasn't getting the message was when he would go into a game in that tournament and do the very same thing that he was not supposed to do. And it was only at a key moment, I think it was either a quarterfinal or semifinal, when he was trailing, he was losing, he was about to be eliminated. And at a timeout, I reminded him about what we had talked about and the fact that he'd not been doing it. And I tried to get that message across. And he virtually then said, you mean, and he went on to repeat what I had said, and obviously to make some sense. A light had been turned on. He went back to the table, followed the advice, beat the guy, and went on to win the championship. It is not that coaches do not necessarily try to correct problems or that they may even be going about it the wrong way. It's not that. The person has to be ready to receive that. And therefore, I hear too often that the West Indies coaches are this, that, they're the next. We don't know that. How many of us are there when they're training to see what they do and hear what they say? And I'm glad that you didn't go down that road, man, because we don't know what the problem is. We don't know if it's that the coach did not tell him or he's just not ready to take it in.
Well, looking forward to the continuation of this game, it is still anybody's game at this point in time. 154 lead. If the West Indies were to come, let's say, a collapse, a fold, and offer Bangladesh anything less than 250 to win, there's every possibility that the West Indies will be under some amount of pressure. The Bangladeshis has shown us their cards. They started with their spin bowlers. They have not even looked at the seam bowler.
Did that seam bowler get 4 wickets in the first?
I got 4 wickets the first.
Or was that my imagination?
Well, you imagine a lot of things, but not that.
Not that. Okay.
But yes, they didn't even look in his direction. So they're clearly throwing all their hopes in the, having in the first test pick some 4 spinners. They're going all spin to try to get past the West Indies second innings. So it's going to be that examination. I am not so sure how the pitch is going to behave. I keep looking from the beginning of this series. I've been looking for this pitch that is going to turn into this devil, and it still has not. It still has not come about up to now. So I'm keeping a close eye on the pitch. But if I recall, I'll repeat what I said in the earlier, in the opening exchanges. 7 wickets in that final session yesterday. It tells me that the spinners, the finger spinners, seem to be coming back into the game. West Indies, I think a lead of 300 should make us safe. I do not see Bangladesh making 300 in the second innings, although somebody will remind me that nobody saw the West Indies making 395 in the second innings of the first test. But that was an exception more than anything else. So I personally feel that 300 runs should put us in an area of safety. But it would be best for our causes, especially leading the series 1-0. Bangladesh has to come at us if they want to catch up. It would be best for the West Indies to bat as long as they possibly can on this 4th day.
Jason?
Yeah, just follow on quickly from Wayne. Bangladesh wants to draw this series. They want to draw level, which means they want to win this game. So they are going to take chances, whether it is, so they're going to be coming, trying to get us out. Not that a team isn't always trying to get you out, but they're not going to contain. They're not going to try to contain. They're going to be constantly attacking, because while there's a lot of time left in the game, the longer the West Indies bat, the more runs they will make, and that's the more runs that Bangladesh will have to make. So they're going to try to minimize their fourth innings target with an all-out attack, which means they're likely to make some mistakes, which we can capitalize on. Now, the additional 200 runs that I spoke of, I don't want to say it's very easy, but if you divide it up among those remaining, 540s is 200. So if you can get 4 batsmen giving 40s, and then the back end giving you another 40, and in the back end, I'm including Joseph, Cornwall, Gabriel, and Warrican. I mean, Warrican is at the wicket now, but just totaling up those runs, then we can get that 200. I mean, the important thing, Warrican being at the crease right now, I think is an advantage for us, because yes, they'll concentrate on him, but I think he is capable enough, once he is not attacking, that he can turn the score over and pick singles along with Bonner. Now, if Bonner happens to fail here, I don't think anybody can be harsh on him. Shot selection, we hope that that continues to be intelligent, but he has, I don't want to say he has done his part thus far this tour. If he were to fail now in this innings, he has still had an excellent tour and exceeded expectations. But the others, this is an opportunity for Blackwood to step up. He's had 1 score so far. And for a leading batsman in a 2-test series, just 1 score of 50 is not enough. Because 1 score of 50 and a couple 20s, you end up with an average in the 20s or the 30s when you have the 4 innings. So he also needs to step up. And once it is pieced together, we can get those runs. So there's the pressure here is on Bangladesh. They are going to come attacking. They are going to be bowling the ball at the stumps, because they realize that that is our weakness, to be able to defend our stumps, whether we are getting bowled or we are getting out LBW. And once we do that and capitalize on the mistakes, we should get that extra 200 runs. It should soak up enough time. I believe if we go into the 3rd session batting, there would be another new ball. It's possible there may be another new ball taken, but it's unlikely, because the harder ball goes further off the bat. So they probably won't take another new ball. So it's important for us to get some runs in these next 30 overs where the ball is going, because 21 overs have been bowled so far. So up to like over number 50, 55, while the ball still has a bit of hardness with it, that we try to capitalize and get the majority of those runs in that situation. If also we happen to score freely, Bangladesh, while they want to attack, they're going to have to change up their fields, and they're going to have to defend to a certain extent. It would give us the opportunity, one, to do it in singles, but we also take the game deeper. So if they have less time to score whatever target we set them, it means they're going to have to take more chances. Although it doesn't appear, whatever the situation is, that Tamim Iqbal is going to bat any different. He is going to go all out from ball 1. And the last thing I'll say, we have to take our chances when they come. Catches are going to come in this 4th innings, and we need to take each and every one of them, so that they are also going to be thinking, well, we can't risk hitting the ball in the air, because these guys are taking everything, and we should following those guidelines, those basic guidelines, be able to win this game and come out of a series 2-0, where I'm sure we were expected to lose 2-0.
West Indies 409 and 41 for 3. Bangladesh 296. West Indies lead by 154. Thanks for watching Anything Cricket Test Match Watch, where we reviewed day 3 of the second test of the series between Bangladesh and the West Indies. On behalf of Jason King and Wayne Holder, Philip Hackett inviting you to join us for a review of day 4.